Hi, it's Carolyn here. Before you start listening to this episode, I just wanted to let you know that I'm currently in Switzerland doing my very own and long overdue trip around the country. I'm visiting some of the most popular destinations in Switzerland, as well as a number of lesser known places. And I'm travelling around by both car and train. If you'd like to follow along with my Swiss travels to see where I am and what I'm doing, make sure you follow Holidays to Switzerland on Instagram. That's holidays2 Switzerland. Here I'll be sharing photos and reels as I go, and I'd love you to follow along. Now, settle back and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Holidays to Switzerland Travel Podcast. Your host is the founder of holidaysto-switzerland.com and the Switzerland Travel Planning Facebook group, Carolyn Schonnefinger. On this podcast, Carolyn will be joined by a variety of guests who share their knowledge and love of the country to help you plan your dream trip to Switzerland.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 30 of the podcast. No one who visits Switzerland can fail to be impressed by the stunning scenery. The combination of mountains, lakes, and lush green pastures is the true description of paradise. One of the many things I love about Switzerland is that wherever there's a mountain, regardless of how high it is, there's usually a mountain railway or a cable car to take you to the top. The ingenuity and engineering skills required to actually build some of those cable cars and mountain railways is astounding. And what's even more impressive is that it's not just a new thing. The Swiss have been finding ways to transport tourists up to mountaintops for more than a century. In fact, Switzerland is home to Europe's oldest mountain railway, the Rigi bahn, and in 2021, the railway is celebrating its 150th anniversary. It's incredible to think how many tourists must have taken the journey to the top of Mount Rigi in a century and a half. A lot has changed in 150 years. But one thing has remained the same, the breathtaking 360-degree views that you get from the top of Mount Rigi. In today's episode, I'm joined by Frédéric Füssenich, the CEO of Rigi Railways. Frédéric is going to chat about the history of the railway and tell us all the reasons a visit to Mount Rigi should be top of your list when you are in central Switzerland. Hi, Frédéric. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward for the next hour or so.
Excellent. Now, can you start by just sharing a bit about your background with us and how you came to be working for Mount Rigi Railways?
Yes. Well, I work in the best industry in the world, which is the travel industry. My background, went to the university, did a hotel business school in Lucerne, and then I worked a couple of years for Engelberg in the sales department. After that, I made bachelor studies in economic and science, and then I became a tourist director in the Grüßen for a destination called Diesen-Tissedrun, that's close to Andermatt. And then my background, my mom is from Engelberg, and then I became the tourist director of Engelberg for 10 years. And then I got a phone call, and a headhunter asked me if I want to become the CEO of Mount Rigi. And I said, in your mid-40s, that might be a great opportunity, but I had no clue whether they want to take me or not. But all of a sudden they said, you can have the job. And, I had a bit of a rough start. I started on the 16th of March, which was the day of the first lockdown.
So you weren't welcoming too many guests.
Not really, but I had plenty of time to understand the business. And it's a fantastic company. There's really good people, very special, a lot of uniques. Yeah, like the whole setup, the whole business model with our cogwheel trains and the support for the region. And overall, no, I haven't regretted a day. Even so, it was a bit of a rough start. And I'm married and have two kids, 10 and 12. That's the most important part, I guess, and a lovely wife.
And so you said your mum's from Engelberg. You were born in the same area, were you, around Lucerne?
No. Actually, I'm born and brought up in Germany.
Oh, okay.
My dad was here for a holiday and took her with her. And then my grandmother and my uncle took over a hotel here. We have strong roots in Engelberg. So that's always been like home. So yeah, which is a great destination as well. So now I'm living in Fitz now, close to the lake or very close to the lake, and family still living in Engelberg. So I have two great places to live right now.
Excellent. Good. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing much more about Mount Rigi and the railways. Now, it's the 150th anniversary of the railways this year. Can you tell us a bit about the history and how the railway actually came into being?
Yeah, it's the oldest railway or mountain railway in Europe. There was Mount Washington like 2-3 years before. So 150 years of history. And of course, were some pioneers, and the big pioneer, which is like still like the Pope for our company in a way. The guru is Mr. Rickenbach. He invented the system which we're still using. And the thing is, like, when you have the anniversaries, of course, you can see on old pictures and the stories how they build it. But for example, we still have our railway, which is called Lok 7, which was built in 1874. And we took that out of a museum. It was a museum of transportation, shipped it over the lake, and then we made it running again. Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is that knowledge was within our company. So it was our employees who made it running again. And there you can see we have 2 steam trains running. Now we have the third one, and this is so unique. So you can really now experience how they came up or conquered the mountain 150 years ago. And I mean, that was for sure a special time when the Gotthard Tunnel has been built. It was a lot of, electricity came and so on and so forth. And that spirit is very inspiring, like all the challenge that now occurs when you look how they managed back in the days and whether really were thinking forward. And yeah, you can't imagine how sometimes hard it was, and there are not that many companies who can look back to 150 years history. And of course, there were ups and downs, and there was the First World War, the Second World War, but we're still up and running, and we get a lot of energy from the past. So I say when you know your roots, then you know where you should go. And the magic is still the same. I mean, it's this unique combination of lake and mountain, the scenery, the 360-degree view. And there's a reason why they built the first railway or mountain railway on Mount Rigi in Europe, because it's a magic place. Gives some hope for the future as well.
Yeah. And it was built for tourism, was it?
It was totally built for tourism.
Yeah.
Mount Rigi was, even before, a very, very famous mountain. It was like alpine tourism started on Mount Rigi. All the rich aristocrats, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria came several times, and Victor Hugo, Goethe, all the rich and famous big influencers back in that days, they've been up to Mount Rigi. They've been sometimes by horse or have been carried or sometimes walked. And the first alpine guest house was on Mount Rigi. That's like 205 or 6 years ago. So there was a prospering tourism on Mount Rigi before. And yeah, that's the right place to build the first mountain railway. Yeah.
Wonderful. So for those listeners that don't exactly know where Mount Rigi is, can you give us a bit more of a geography lesson to tell us exactly where in Switzerland we can find Mount Rigi?
Sure. Well, when you look up, probably most people know where Zurich is or Lucerne, I guess, like the big airport in Zurich. Well, it's right in the heart of central Switzerland. It's about 45 minutes drive from the airport from Zurich. Most scenic way is, of course, by boat from Lucerne to go to Mount Rigi. It's a little bit of a peninsula, and it's also very nice located when you go through Italy, through Switzerland, then you automatically pass by at Mount Rigi when you hit towards Paris or Germany. And it's located on the Lake Lucerne. And what is also quite unique is that you, on a clear day, you can see all cantons of Switzerland except Geneva. You can see 19 lakes, and this is like the real magic. I mean, it's not the highest mountain. It's only 1,800 meters high, but you can see the whole Alps scenery with Eigermönch, Jungfrau, up to Mont Blanc on a clear day. And on the other hand, you can see the Black Forest, the 19 Lakes, whole of Switzerland, and that on a 360-degree view. So that makes it really, really special. It's not like, when I compare it to Engelberg, there we have the glacier and it's rough terrain and it's steep and it's more like mellows. I mean, there are bits and pieces where you shouldn't fall down, but it's not as frightening, so to speak. It's more beautiful scenery, a lot of green. But I think the view is exceptional. And back in the days, people came out especially for the sunset and for like when the sun is getting up, or then when sometimes the lightning over the lakes, or even when there's a thunderstorm. It's dramatic. You don't need a television up there.
Yeah. And it sounds like you can keep an eye on all of Switzerland if you can see all bar one canton from up there.
Yeah, and you've seen it all.
That's it. So are there various ways that we can reach the summit of Mount Rigi? Yeah.
We have 2 railways run from Goldau, which is in the canton of Schwyz. Then we have one in Pfitzner, which is a tiny little village just at the lake. We have another cable car, which is going up halfway to Mount Rigi, and then you can jump onto the train. And then we have, which is called, there is like the top of the peak, but it's like a mountain range. Mm-hmm. And there are fantastic hikes just on the edge on that range. So you always look on both sides, and you can start at Scheidegg, it's called, and then you can go up to the top, which is Rigi Kurm. That's like a 2.5 hour, 3 hours hike. And there we also have a tiny little cable car. Or tiny, it's like 10 people can go in. And then the various little farmers' cable cars. So overall, Rigi has plenty of accesses, but not up to the very top, but then you can start and go on. But that's like more for the first time visitors go to Goldau, go to the top, and then go down to Pfitzner, and then you have a really nice overview. For the ones who want to come more into hiking, there are enormous ways to go up and to explore the whole range. Yeah, that makes it special when you compare it to other top of mountains. Then you get the top, and this is it. And here it's wider. And you get to go up one way and down a different way, so you see a whole different perspective as well. Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the things that people can do when they get to Rigi Kulm? As we're talking, I just signed yesterday the contract. We will read you the whole experience on the top of the mountain. Will all the passes do fresh? We will have like a little bit of a hiking session part as well, where you have like a scenic view with a special fence on the side. What we will establish till next June is as well an audio guide where you can go from spot to spot, and then you scan a QR code, but then you can choose what kind of information you want to have. So you get the geological information, you get the history, you get the train history, you get the Alp culture that we have there very strongly, the fauna, what kind of animals are living there. We're planning to have like a 45 minutes experience based on an audio or like a podcast, so to say. And so that you really get to know the magic of Mount Rigi, what makes it such a special mountain. So when you arrive at Rigi Kulm, that's like a nice little hike. If you go fast and you're in 10 minutes, you're on top, or even 5 minutes. But if you take it from the outside and take your time and have a view on the top, that will make, and the hiking pass in the end, that's about a 45 minutes experience. And then there's a really, really nice restaurant and hotel up there. And you can have a drink there and then enjoy it. And if you're eager, there's a station underneath. If you want to do some workout, you could get out there and then walk up to the very top, or you can walk down to Rigi Staffel as well. And yeah, like I said, you will see a lot of cows and Alp culture, and so that's like the main attraction. Okay, lovely. And you mentioned that there's a hotel there, so I guess people can come and stay the night and see those spectacular sunsets and sunrises that you talked about before. Actually, it's the oldest alpine guest house I guess, in the world, so to speak, since tourism was invented, like I mentioned before. I mean, it's not the original building. That would be, there was no heating and no water back in the day.
No plumbing.
But it's a really, really super nice 3-star plus hotel. And the nice thing is they still have a lot of the interior is back from the decades. I mean, there is, for example, some plates from the King of Bavaria who came there on several times. And you see this fantastic pictures from back in the day. So if you want to get the Rigi spirit, that's for sure a super nice place to stay. Another nice place to stay, we have a really nice spa facilities on Rigi Kaltbad. That's like, 5 years ago? Huge investment. There are some outdoor pools, jacuzzis where you can overlook the whole mountain range. And there is a hotel Rigi Kaltbad included, which is also a nice 3-star plus hotel. On the other hand, for the more culinary people, we have the Herbs Hotel, the Kräuter Hotel, and they have a Michelin star, and they're really, really dedicated to local food. So whatever you get on the plate has been grown or has been slaughtered, not more than 4 kilometers around that hotel. He's a bit crazy, but he really loves what he's doing. And yeah, it's an adventure when you go there for dinner. So you get so many different tastes and what he's doing with all that local food is just astonishing. Yeah. And then you got this tiny little, for example, we have a Lok 7 restaurant, which is like our famous Lok 7, the famous train, which is so old. A reminiscence stands for that one, where you get like traditional Swiss food, like cordon bleu or Elble Magron or fondue. Or then you have the chalet, which is like also traditional food, but very open-minded, Stefan. So culinary-wise and overnight-wise, it's definitely worth staying 1 or 2 nights more. We even offer Airbnb apartment on the top of a station on Kulm, and that's also kind of special because, like, at night, then you have the whole mountain for yourself, and you're staying in the station house, like back in the days. Obviously, the people our employees stayed there for good.
Something very different. So given that there's hotels and restaurants up there, do the railways operate all year round?
Yeah. I mean, there is a tiny little village in Rigi Kaltbad. There are around 100 people living there all year round.
Oh, okay.
And of course, they have to go to work, and we work we operate the whole year round. The peak season for us is obviously the summertime. Autumn is super, super popular when the air is clear and they get the great view, and the hiking season. We have a tiny little ski resort, which is perfect for beginners. So the winter is as well sledging, cross-country skiing. Snowshoe hiking is very popular on Mount Rigi as well. Winter hiking itself, like all the beautiful ridge hikes, which I mentioned, you can do that as well in the winter time. And then like a little bit of a slow season is May, when spring is already down in the valley, and still a little bit of winter up there. But yeah, that's like the slowest months of the year. But we operate all year round.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that the day you started was the day that the first lockdown happened in Switzerland back in March 2020. How was this summer for you from a tourist point of view? I guess it's not back to full capacity, but was it as good as you expected?
I mean, the summer 20 worked out pretty well as soon as we were able to operate. Of course, there were no international guests, but I guess it was the same all over the world. Like locals or like the inhabitants of Switzerland recovered again what a beautiful country that they have. We had a lot of guests from the French part and from the Italian part. That was pretty much the same, like a lot of people from the German part of Switzerland also went to the French and to the Italian part. And that kept on going even this year. We were a little bit unlucky with the weather this year. August was fantastic. Even yesterday, like the 1st September, we have had really, really nice figures, but July was terrible. It was raining a lot.
We had a lot of rain.
We were even afraid that there were some floodings, thank God, in our region. And yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre summer. August was fine. And now we hope for a great autumn and a good winter. But no, we'll be doing fine. I mean, what can you do? You have to just accept how it is. And for sure there will be better times when everybody can travel freely, but so far we shouldn't complain. Obviously, the 150 years anniversary, we did a lot of steam train and special activities, and that helped as well. The knowledge, the image of the whole mountain improved. That was probably a good timing. So, yeah. Okay. We're happy.
Oh, good. So if someone is coming to Lucerne and they're staying in Lucerne for a couple of days and they want to go and visit Mount Rigi, what should they do to sort of prepare for their visit? Is there any tips you'd give them about going on a mountain excursion, for instance?
Well, I mean, depending if you're into hiking a bit, but anyhow, you should have proper footwear. Don't take high heels when you go on a mountain. The scenic way, obviously, is jump onto a steamboat and in Lucerne, which is like just in the center. It's a train station, and then you have like a 45 minutes boat ride to Fitznau station. And when you get out of the boat, you can directly jump into the train, because obviously we always wait for the boat to come, and then there's no standing in line or so. If you come on a Wednesday, we call it the Rigi Historic Day. We take all our old trains out, and then there's a good chance that you go up with a train which is like 80, 90 years, and some of the wagons, they're really back from 1874. And then, if you're first-time visitors, you have to go to the peak for sure. Take your time. And then, like I said, if you're eager to hike up and stay there, or you make the top excursion, and then you can easily walk down, have a nice lunch, for example, in Loch 7 with some traditional Swiss food. Some of them, you can go to the spa, which is like you can do a daily spa as well. And then you can even take the gondola down to Weggis and jump on the train there, on the boat again, to go back to Lucerne on that side. So you get this two experiences with the train, and the scenery when you go down with our gondola is also exceptional. If you're more into hiking, like I said, there are several endless hiking passes going up and down and back and forth on Mount Rigi. And as soon as you on a hiking trail, then you're not in the cloud anymore. This is like some of them are super, super remote. Like even on the busy days, there are many hiking paths where you won't see a person all day long. And like what I always do when visitors come is go over to Scheidegg. I mentioned it before. Then you have to go around the mountain and to Goldau, and then make that ridge hike, which is like 3.5, 4 hours. And this is also, and there we have like fireplaces, public fireplaces with little houses, even when it rains, so you get some shelter. And there is free wood. And even if you want, we rent out rucksacks with some sausages and the whole setup. But of course, you can go to a supermarket and buy it yourself and make a nice barbecue there. And that's also a nice way to spend the day.
Yeah, lovely. So is it generally much cooler on Mount Rigi than it is down in Lucerne?
Well, yeah, of course. Like you could say for every 500 meters altitude, it's about 5 degrees. So when it's 25 degrees in Lucerne, then on the very top you got like maybe 17, 16 degrees. But depending on when the sun is shining, it's fine, but sometimes it's windy up there. So yeah, take a jacket with you. I mean, even if it's warm down when you start, you're going up to a mountain. So yeah, it can be a bit chilly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So be prepared and take a jacket.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you got any fun facts about Mount Rigi that you'd like to share with us? You mentioned before that you can see almost all the cantons from the top. Is there anything else interesting that we should know?
There's a really, really nice story. Mark Twain went to Mount Rigi, and he went to Mount Rigi like really in the first days when the new railway was built. And he made a novel out of it, Visit of Mount Rigi. Funny thing is, like, went up with his friends, there were, on the hiking path, there were some locals who were yodeling and playing the althorn. So he gave them a little donation, and then he kept on going, and then the second one was there, and he gave them a little donation, and then the third one, they were coming, and there was a little donation. And then First, he gave him donation that they play, and then after an hour or so, he gave some donation to stop because he couldn't listen anymore to it. And it's a hilarious novel or travel experience. And then, of course, he wanted to see the sunrise on top. And then he went to bed, but he was so exhausted that he slept through, and then he saw the sunset instead of the sunrise when he looked out of the window. But he didn't realize what's wrong in Switzerland because he thought there was going to be a sunrise, but then the sun was going down. And there are many. It's for sale. You should read it before you go to Mount Rigi. It's so freshly written as well. It doesn't feel like it's 150 years old. It's really a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, we'll definitely have to look that one up. You said just before that when you have visitors come that you always like to do the Scheidegg, the Ridge Walk. So if I asked you how would you spend the perfect day on Mount Rigi, would it include that or would you spend it some different way?
Yeah, depending a little bit on the season. I mean, I love skiing a lot. It's a tiny little ski area, but when there is enough snow, you can really go down a little bit through the woods. And that's like last winter was fantastic. It was like fjord skiing. You can nearly ski down towards the lake. And the combination of snow and lake, I've been to Norway and Spitsbergen and I think that's just magic. And that just around the corner here in Switzerland is fantastic. But like in the summertime with the kids, we do the ridge hike and then we go down and then we jump into the lake and take a swim down there. So that's like a super, super nice combination. And if you, like I said, depending a little bit on the culinary side, when you pass by at Charlie Schild and have a nice lunch there with some local food, there is a creperie in Kaltbad where we always have to stop with the kids. There's a mini golf and a little bit of a playground there as well. And especially from Kaltbad, that's what we do as well when we don't have so much time. Like the Summit station where the little village is. And then you walk flat out and it's called the Kanzeli. And there you got an astonishing view already. And then you walk up to the top and that's like, maybe an hour and a half. So it's not, but it's a nice walk to calm down. And then again, it's getting down to the lake and the combination of lake and mountain. That's always calms the whole family down. So that's a nice day. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. And there's plenty of options. I can see why you love working at Mount Rigi so much.
Yeah. And it's like the journey itself. I mean, it's not fast, obviously, but it's rumbling and bumbling a little bit, but you really, as soon as you get into the train, and you see the view and it's very relaxing way to go up a mountain instead of having like a super high professional gondola which boosts you up. It's more, And then when you slow down and then when you're in one of these historic wagons, that's also, some of them are cabrios, like open air. And then you can really smell it, see the cows, smell the cows. Yeah. So that's very close to nature.
Wonderful. Where can people find you online if they need more information? What's the web address for Mount Rigi?
Simple as rigi.ch.
Perfect.
RIGI.ch. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll put that link in the show notes for this episode, and I'll also list some of the restaurants and hotels and things that you've talked about so that if people are planning their visit, they can quickly access the information. And I'm sure that, yes, you've inspired our listeners to make sure they visit Mount Rigi when they head to Switzerland.
Yeah, that's mandatory. If you go to Switzerland, you have to go to Mount Rigi.
Right. Everyone, put it on your list.
Fine as well, Titlis as well, but yeah.
Frédéric said it's mandatory. You've got to do it. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you, Caroline, and all the best.
If you would like more information about anything mentioned on today's show, take a look at the show notes, which you'll find at holidaystoswitzerland.com/episode 30. I'll include a link to the Mount Rigi website, plus details on how to purchase your tickets and additional resources that will help you to plan the perfect visit.
Thank you so much for listening. For more great resources on planning a trip to Switzerland, make sure you visit holidaystoswitzerland.com, where you'll find trip planning tips, destination guides, information on transport, including Swiss rail passes, and much more. You're also encouraged to join the Switzerland Travel Planning Group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and chat to other past and future travellers to Switzerland. You'll find show notes from today's episode at holidays2switzerland.com/podcast, and be sure to subscribe to the Holidays to Switzerland Travel podcast so you never miss an episode.